Hello, Australia. It's good to be back. I'm not here to make you laugh, unfortunately. This is probably going to make you cry. I'm going to talk about how democracy is dying in Britain, similar to what Connor was saying. I mean, Britain is the birthplace of Western liberal democracy. It's the garden where it first grew. You're probably aware that the garden isn't doing so well right now. The country that used to run a third of the world can't even run itself. British natives are revolting. That's not just the opinion of left-wing politicians. Britain's people are taking to the streets. They're putting up flags, they're protesting, and they're taking to direct action. After years of seeing only Palestinian flags and pride flags fly in the UK, which doesn't really make sense. Like, we want to be gay, but we also want to be executed for being gay. I don't get it. Now we're seeing British flags go up as British people mark their territory. Yeah, you're right to clap. We should be having these flags. But desperate to contain the natives' revolt, the government is cracking down on protests, it's tearing down flags, and it's cracking down on free speech as well. It's locking up young mothers for tweets and hoping that this display of force is going to cow the population. But it just makes us angrier. And it's spilling over into open conflict between, on one side, the Islamists and the far left, and on the other side, British patriots. So how did we get here, and how can we fix it? And how can we stop Australia from reaching the same point as Britain has reached? Well, several decades ago, Britain's left-wing government embarked on a deliberate demographic engineering. They decided to rub the right's nose in diversity. And we've had some rubbing. I'm amazed we've got any nose left, to be honest. Tony Blair opened the borders and migrants poured in, first from Europe, and then after the Brexit vote, which was a desperate backlash against mass immigration, the elites doubled down. They said, well, you don't like those guys from Poland, those culturally similar, hard-working guys? Well, how about a bunch of jihadis from the Horn of Africa? Absolute insanity. These guys from violent, medieval, misogynistic cultures. And look, I'm not anti-immigration. I've just seen the impact that immigration can have on a country. You know, I've lived in London for 20 years, and so many Somalians have arrived that parts of London just don't feel like Bangladesh anymore. And mass immigration was used as a political weapon to reshape the electorate, and it worked for a while. In 2017, 85% of Muslims in Britain voted for the Labour Party. The Labour Party decided the British people weren't voting the right way, so they were going to bring in people who did vote the right way. And it replaced the white working class vote for them. But this wasn't just to gerrymander votes. The left want to destroy Western capitalist democracy. They want to tear down the nation state and replace it with a really rubbish version of communism. This ideological zeal to force diversity on people, whether they want it or not, has led to friction, to put it mildly. I mean, look at Epping. It's a nice, leafy commuter town just outside London. The government dumped hundreds of illegal migrant men there within walking distance of a school, including this guy, Hadush Gebrselassie Kibatu from Ethiopia. He'd only been there a week when he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl. So protests sprang up. The mainstream media told us that they're far-right thugs. I don't know if you saw the protests. There are women dressed in pink, middle-aged women dressed in pink, holding homemade signs. And we're told they're Nazis. I mean, I'm waiting for them to invade Poland. They're probably going to hand out biscuits, you know? Absolute insanity. And look, when we say asylum hotel, these aren't people fleeing war zones. You know the Ethiopian man, you know how many safe countries he came through to get to Britain? He came through 9, including Ethiopia, including the country he came from. It's not at war. It's a safe, prosperous country now, probably because all the Ethiopian men are in London. And what happened next is very ominous for democracy. So the residents didn't want the asylum hotel, so they got the council to go to court to get an order to stop the hotel being used for illegal migrants. So the government then went to court to overrule this court order. The government lawyers argued in court that the rights of illegal migrants are more important than the rights of British people, and the hotel should be forced to reopen. And they cited European law to do this. So our government sided with foreigners over their own people, and they used foreign law to do so. I mean, this is not democracy. Our democracy has become performative. We go through the motions, but all the decisions are made by the blob. The far left completed their long march through the institutions. I mean, it would have been a quicker march, but they're socialists. So our asylum judges are now progressive activists who stop deportations for the flimsiest reasons. There was an Albanian man who couldn't be sent back to Albania because his kid didn't like the chicken nuggets in Albania. This guy's a criminal. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be here. There's a Zimbabwean paedophile who couldn't be sent back to Zimbabwe because he'd face hostility in Zimbabwe. He's a paedophile. He should face hostility. He should face hostility in Britain. Oh, my God. And Epping isn't the only place that's showing how democracy is fraying. In Ballymena in Northern Ireland, there's a strong, stable community with a fair few immigrants from Poland and the Philippines. They're hardworking, good people. They've integrated and they get on. But then the government moved in Roma gypsy families and they committed crime and they posed on social media with cash and weapons. Families pleaded with authorities. They engaged peacefully with the democratic process. And they were dismissed as racist. They were told, go away, be inclusive. Diversity is good for you, you bigots. And then a local girl was gang raped and the community had had enough. So they took to the streets and they protested and they burned the houses of the problem families. And it was brutal and dangerous and horrible. And it should never have got to that point. But it was undeniably effective. It worked for the community where engaging with democracy had failed. By ignoring people, when they engaged peacefully and democratically, the government sent a message. Direct action, taking to the streets, is the only way to resolve your issues. And the government isn't just ignoring people's concerns, the government is clamping down on anyone who speaks out. Journalist Alison Pearson received a visit from the police over a tweet she'd made. Another man was jailed for sharing memes that were pretty tame. They would get kicked out of most WhatsApp groups for not being racist enough. And Lucy Connolly sent and then deleted a tweet, which was unpleasant. It was an unpleasant tweet, but it was still just a tweet. You know what punishment this young mother got for a tweet that was deleted? 32 months in prison. I mean, this is insanity. This is, people say, is Britain becoming North Korea? Honestly, in North Korea, you know what you can't say. In Britain, people don't know what they can't say. It's horrific. And compare that to how people on the left are treated. Left-wing politician Ricky Jones urged a mob of far-left activists to cut the throats of their opposition. He got no jail time for that. And while Brits feel the full force of the law, the new demographics are treated with kid gloves. The police consult with community leaders to let them choose what sort of policing they'd like to have from a menu. Pro-Palestine activists drove around Jewish areas of London, waving flags and shouting out their windows, threatening to rape the women and daughters of that community. No charges were brought. When violence broke out after the Southport attack, police advised Muslims to hide their weapons in the mosque. Isn't that insane? Hide your weapons in the mosque. But if a British man says, I love bacon, he's arrested for Islamophobia. This is where we're at in Britain. The government isn't on British people's side. We saw British flags that were hung outside a mosque taken down by the council because the people in the mosque said that the British flag was a hate crime. I mean, this is interesting because we were told that the Muslims in Britain are as British as anyone. But they don't seem to think so. They don't want our flag. They're a separate community, geographically inside Britain, but separated by about 1,400 years. And marking areas with flags has happened in Britain before, in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. And just like in Northern Ireland, it's spiralling into conflict. When English men hung flags in Stevenage, Muslims came to attack them with petrol bombs. And if you Google it, you'll see the pictures of the guy. He was hit with a petrol bomb. Luckily, it wasn't lit, but his face was cut and bloodied. Then English men came to the area. We're seeing mob rule. We're seeing violence starting to break out. Britain is on the verge and it just needs a trigger to set it off. So what do we do? The Enlightenment values that the Western world is built on can only survive in a walled garden. We need to rebuild the wall. We need to close the borders. We don't need to import workers. We've already got lots of people in Britain on benefits doing nothing. We can slash the public sector to free up workers for productive private sector roles. Afuera, as the great Javier Milei would say. And the robots are coming. They can drive taxis, and the best thing about these self-driving taxis is they don't gang rape your children. They're incredible. And we should stop bribing people to come to the West. No foreign national should receive a penny in benefits from the British taxpayer. If we stop giving people money, a lot will just leave of their own volition. There's not much else to stay in Britain for, to be honest. And we need to change the attitudes of left-wing people. The left said they wanted to rub the right's nose in diversity. Well, now it's time to rub the left's nose in diversity. The balkanisation of Britain, the separation of areas, this should actually be encouraged. Illegal migrants should be moved to the left-wing areas. Their hotels should be next to left-wing parents' schools. They should defecate in the flower beds of left-wing people. Left-wing people should experience the consequences of their opinions instead of letting working-class girls suffer. And we need to encourage patriotism. It's the glue that holds a nation together. At the moment, patriots are smeared as racist. Listen, I've got to say, British people are so non-racist, you can actually rape tens of thousands of British girls before British people will even think of saying, now steady on a minute. That's how non-racist British people are. America held together as a multiracial democracy because everyone in America sees themselves as American first. That needs to be the attitude in Britain, in Australia, in every Western country. Britain and its brother countries, Australia and America, are the greatest countries in the world. Everyone should feel proud of that, and everyone should fight to save it. Thank you very much. Thank you.